Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Graph Builders Office Hours. And today we have a special guest, I think a three-time guest at this point throughout the years I've known you, Pranav. Three times. This is Pranav, known as a single name similar to Eto or Messi and any of those very famous, powerful soccer players. He only goes by Pranav. That is all we know about this mysterious man. Welcome to the Graph Builders Office Hours once again, Pranav. How you doing?
Super excited, and I'm really pumped in showing what we actually are building. And I can't be more happy. I think every day when I wake up nowadays in the age of AI, there are two types of people specifically living in San Francisco. One who say that like, oh my God, AI is coming, we are all not needed anymore. But I'm one of those who believes always that technology replaces complacence with opportunity. And this is one such leap of faith that humanity has taken. It was also during the industrial era when people used to work, and then factories came and people started doing better things. And the ones who adopted, who built factories, who built these machineries, the shovels for the factories, they made all the profits of the world and made the world a better, more interconnected place. Then, when
Hmm.
it came to computers, again, there was more work for humanity, but more intellectual, more thought process, more connected, more democratized. And I think AI is the third leap in making that happen. And I'm really happy that after so long of crypto struggling, there is something called as machine payments that have stuck with this new futuristic AI agentic economy, and
Hmm.
a lot of interesting things are happening. I would say I'm really fortunate that I'm in such an age where I can still learn. I still have most of my life left, and I can see the future being built in front of my eyes.
I need to echo that so strongly. I appreciate you starting this office hours with optimism. If any reader out there goes through the cesspit that is Twitter, please don't. Just listen to Pranav. I agree. I feel that right now there is personally a reflection time to history, where when computers first rolled out, the search function completely changed how you were able to go and access information. Remember search? Search was like the very first thing. Remember like going through and being able to identify documents just in a computer itself. That revolutionized, specifically, I was doing research into history, it revolutionized the legal domain, essentially being able to find legal documents rapidly as opposed to having an entire library in your book completely changed the bottleneck from having a employee that has a very much a rote memory of every single location of the book to someone who can then search to translate that rapidly into actionable legal documents. So it's not necessarily for me a bigger shift than what has happened in the past with other technologies. This does feel like a revolution similar to the Industrial Revolution. And also, jobs were lost at that time. Jobs were then found and jobs were created. It feels like that change is right now. And I do agree completely with what you're saying. There needs to be more optimism in this and a aggressive use of these new tools that we're doing our very best to figure out. So let's bring that right back to you, Pranav. Before we go into what you've been working on, before we go into what you're excited about today, how did you get started in crypto? Let's go back a few years. How did you get started in crypto and what from that has brought you to today?
Yeah, I'm so lucky to say I didn't start off by gambling on my net worth in crypto, and then like I had to make it back, and then I had to do a job or something like that. My journey was much more shinier and like happier. To put it in words, I started working in crypto as a bounty hunter. So there were like these Fiverr jobs where people were paying ridiculous amounts of money to create a small smart contract for their ICO work or whatever, and they were not discovering something called as open Zeppelin, right? I
Mm,
always believe that being ahead of the curve is where where the dollars lie. Mob
hmm
mentality is always not the right mentality. And I
hmm
think at that time, knowing something like as truffle, something like as a hard hat was amazing for me to sort of get started, deliver these works super quickly. Knowing something like Open Zapton was great. So I started off as like a bounty hunter. I used to do like small bounties for small companies. And eventually somebody posted a bounty about like, like doing some work for a hackathon. And then I started collaborating with him. And in that, there was this company called Polygon that was sponsoring, and they were looking for interesting engineers that were looking for jobs. I was someone who could not get a job outside of crypto or anywhere because like they needed like some specific fancy qualifications, and I was not bound to that. So it was just a great match where they could not find anyone and I could not find a company. So we just like were like, okay, this is great. And I started working in Polygon, and I think I had a great run over there. And then I've been with the graph for the last 5 years, probably. I feel like a grandpa of the ecosystem. The ecosystem has evolved so much. We started off with like hosted service, and my job was to do chain integrations. So, like when I joined, we had three chains: Ethereum, Polygon, and I think BNB. And since then, we have added, I think, 40 plus chains, EVM, non-EVM chains, and thoroughly evolved from subgraphs being on hosted service to the graph network to now building a new product called AMP, which is for like futuristic data indexing. At that point in time, all we cared about, which most Web3 industry cared about, was DeFi and our internal projects and everything related to degens and developers. And now, just like how Web3 has evolved, the graph has also, I think, evolved. And we have internally also evolved to be like enterprisey, selling to banks, making these big players come in and get some like of our infrastructure and tooling and idea of on-chain world. So it's been a great journey so far. What I'm really happy about is I'm working on this next gen project coming out of Edge and Node, which is one of the core devs of the graph, which utilizes its bread and butter, which is AMP, but builds something even further. I think the graph in itself is creating sort of like a PayPal mafia, where like some interesting projects are brewing inside. Some we know, some we don't. They'll come along. I think semiotic also. I mean, there were so many that evolved through it. Cambrian was one. I think this other one is another which can really brew up into something really cool. And everything starts with indexing and data and goes up from there. So it's super interesting times. I'm really happy that what I'm working on is something that the world is talking about as well and is needed, but they have not realized it yet. So yeah, I feel like I'm ahead of the ball curve, and I'm gonna be a billionaire soon. Actually, sorry about that too.
$Pranav, $Pranav. The narrative that you hit on there, where being ahead of the curve, and that's important to you as not just a professional, but as a person. Being ahead of the curve has provided you things that you couldn't even dream of. Right now, you're in San Francisco, you've traveled the world, you're helping out institutions as well as degens day to day. Tell me about that in between. Where right now, personally, we're in an in between, you and me as employees of Edge and Node, and also as an industry. Crypto is an in between right now between this TradFi world that's been around for hundreds of years and the degen mentality that got us here. What do you feel in this state we're in right now? Are we over that 50% mark? Are we still behind it? Where's the curve right now?
So I have a belief that, everything works in a cyclic way, including life. You have really good days, you have really bad days. In really good days, you feel like you're the king of the world and you can do whatever you want. And in really bad days, you feel like everything is over, nothing is going to work out. And then when you evaluate your life or someone's life, it's like the middle, right? The answer is always lying in the middle. Whenever crypto, like any other industry, goes through cycles, there are times when you feel that nothing is going to work. And then there are times that this party is never going to end. And the answer always lies in the middle. There was a time in 2021 when crypto was so self-absorbed that there were not more than 1,000 users, but there were more than 1,000 infrastructure projects with their own altcoins doing whatever they want. And it was all super crypto heavy and focused. And all we wanted was on-chain economy. No banks, no customer research, no Web2 people or what we in Web3 used to call them as degenerates or like oldies or whatever. And now is the time where we think that decentralization, censorship resistance, scalability, uptime with verifiable credentials, zero knowledge proofs. None of this matters. All that matters is these big banks, these, big conglomerates, these millions of users that the internet has. And I think the answer lies in the middle. We are going to seclude towards a place where, like, I feel, we'll have a middle ground where some part of blockchain and crypto and Web3 will be included. The degenerate mimetic side will not be included, and there will be some side, and there will be some side of this banking, Web2, fintech, internet technology that will be included, but some part that already exists right now will not be included. And my bet is that blockchain's feature of existing throughout the world, being censorship resistant, being uptime all the time. Ethereum is a computer machine which has never gone off since it started. These resistance, reliability, these features of blockchain will exist. It will be used for remittances throughout the world. And what we can take from the traditional world, I feel, is like something which in my opinion could be their user focus, like getting people in the regulatory compliances, the stuff that's included in more like banking systems and things like that. So I think the answer lies in the middle, and you can see that already coming with Coinbase launching Base, Stripe launching Tempo,
Hmm.
Tether launching stable, and a lot of Robinhood launching its own chain. A lot of these Web 2 companies are becoming Web 2.5, and a lot of these Web 3 companies are also becoming Web 2.5, like Aave launching an institutional banking system and going deeper and heavier on there. I just feel that we are colluding towards something really interesting, and we are not going down, rather, we are consolidating to something super amazing where the future would be cryptographic, the future would be on chain, but it would be much better than how we used to do things in 2021, which was super non friendly, super non mass oriented, and super gambling. We'll find a middle ground.
Remember the call to arms? Maybe it was even a year ago, 2 years ago. Onboard 1 billion, 2 billion, 3 billion users. Remember that? Remember that? Onboard the world. I remember that. And that was a mission. That was a cry to the heavens. We're going to be the first company to onboard 1 billion users. The billion users are already there. Billion users already have the ability to interact with their finances. It's the plugging into what already works. That's what I feel, to echo what you're saying, is where we're at. We're plugging into what already works. We're not trying to make a new social network, if you know what I mean, where we have to reinvent all of finance again. No, we needed to reinvent Rails to essentially provide a new avenue to access liquidity, a new avenue, a forward-thinking avenue to transform finances in ways that couldn't be done before, but that's not where the users were. And I really like your vision where we're ending in the middle. We don't have Web 3, we don't have Web 2, we do have a new 2.5. And I think that's a reasonable compromise to land on and push forward through. I really, really love that take, Pranav. Let's go into that middle ground a little bit deeper. You mentioned two products, AMP and ampersend. Do those two products exist in this middle ground?
I think there was a time when we had the graph and we had the graph's hosted service, and all we cared was about decentralization, moving to people to the network. And I think that's great. But for banks, what we forgot was like the onboarding flow was super clunky. They love the part where hosting is not on a specific server or AWS. It's run through incentives that are aligned between different indexing providers, so on and so forth. What they do not like is that you have to have a safe wallet where you have to log in, then sort of manage that memory and treasury. There is no Teams option where everybody has the same kind of permission. The safe has different participants. Once you log in, you have to pay or you have to create a subgraph with curation, and it's really adding a lot of user, biases. And I think Web3 developers were sort of used to it, hence they didn't make a lot of noise about it. But when we talk to serious banks like DTCC trying to use subgraphs on the graph network, that's a little hard of a compromise there. So subgraph was amazing. It was ahead of its time. It was built for the network for DeFi projects, and it will exist and will do really great over there. But when it comes to Robinhood launching RWAs in a compliant manner with specific indexes and data remaining with themselves, or if we go to JP Morgan in the future and tell them that, hey, you're launching a blockchain and the data will have to remain with you, that is where we needed an innovation. And I think because the graph has been in the business of indexing for the last 5 years, I think we finally came to something of that specific reliability and reliance, where in Silicon Valley there is something called as on-prem is the new on cloud, right? Everybody wants to have their data on-prem, and AMP in itself is built with these guarantees.
I
To put it
Go ahead.
to put it in perspectives, I would say AMP is built with this thing that, okay, if we are selling to big banks which are trying to have blockchain data, they would want to keep the data to themselves. So on-prem, they would want it to be super fast and super reliable. So like it's built in Rust, like, it's not built for developers, it is built for enterprise, keeping that in mind. So like developer experience is good, amazing, but what matters more is reliability, functionality, making sure you get all the data, nothing is missed. It's all working, it's all on-prem, and it is regulated with all certifications from the government that are needed. So I think, if you don't evolve, you die, you become a dinosaur, even though if you're a huge, big conglomerate. And I think there are certain companies, despite this fragile environment, like Chainlink, the Graph, and a few others, which do not earn their money with swap fees, which is a stupid way to earn money in Web3. And that's the only way most people are making money in Web3 in protocols on chain, which have survived and are finally placed to sort of cut these big checks, these big boys, and are doing the right thing. So I think AMP is very well placed in that specific order, specifically for, as it comes to Agent Node's perspective. And when it comes to ampersend, I think that was another big evolution. I think agent to agent payment cannot happen in the current way it happens. I would say, first of all, internet was not built for payments in mind. When you write JavaScript, there is no ETH or internet's own specific money. That was something that Ethereum in itself invented with ETH, where you can, like, in the Solidity language itself, create your own currency or write that .eth and make the transfer and make sure it's guaranteed. There is a payload, there is a payback, there is modifiers specifically for that. That was what made Ethereum great. And that combined with agents which only live on the internet. And again, in Silicon Valley, we say that if you're selling to users right now, you're going to lose. You got to sell to agents. So selling to agents, buying to agents which live on the internet, which have nothing to do with the current world, which remains outside the internet, the agent to agent payment bet is prospectively going to happen, where agent have their own wallet and they'll be interacting through stable coins, not through these traditional gateways and payment rails and all these ACH protocols and transaction mechanisms, so on and so forth. And that's where I feel ampersend has hit the bucket right there, where if you're building these agents, you need guardrails for, like, for monitoring and for sort of control panel and everything around that we'll talk about in detail. But I think Agent Node and the graph, I'm really happy, has evolved itself to be compliant with what is coming in the coming weeks and months.
I think I agree. I want to get a little bit more detailed and pointed with specifically ampersend. I know you've been working primarily on ampersend for the past few months, and I want to know if you had an engineer in front of you who is also maybe some traditional finance engineer from that background. Maybe you have an exec in front of you and they have more of a traditional finance background. What's the value proposition of ampersend to those people?
Super interesting. I would say, let's say I'm talking to a cloud provider like DigitalOcean or anybody. I would say just go on your statistics page and find out who has bought your compute in the last 30 days since OpenClaw released. Who has like sort of bought it? And I can guarantee for sure more than 3% of all compute being bought would be bought by agents if DigitalOcean is agent compliant, which I hope they are. Otherwise, I'll sell my DigitalOcean shares right now. So 3 to 5% of all compute in the last 30 days since OpenClaw release has been bought by agents. And it's going to only increase. What that means is that in the future, your customers are not humans, but they are agents who are controlled by humans. So the ones who are buying those services are agents. And they would have to do it not via credit card, not via any of these payment guardrails where you do net banking and Chase account and everything around it. But the hope is and the thinking is that it will be through machine to machine payments, which is through stable coins. And in my opinion, if you're giving your agent a wallet, a credit line, some stable coins, some money, you want to make sure that you are observing it. If you go to your Chase account and they're not telling you where the transactions are going, where you have spent $20 on which specific McDonald's, you will not change from Chase to Wells Fargo, or you will go to Silicon Valley Bank or something else. It's very important that these agent which have money have guardrails, have observability. We can control these agents more than they can control us, and that's where you will have to use ampersand. So the truth is agents will be buying services, not humans. Agents will be doing payments themselves, but it will not be through traditional guardrails, but rather protocols like X402, which is suited for agent to agent payment. And the third one is that you need observability and human in the loop to cut the stuff out if something is not working. And that's where ampersand comes into play.
With ampersand being the human quality to agents, is that something that you're seeing across the board in this industry at the moment where the human interface is being defined, and that's right now the main problem? It feels like the agentic world is taking off and it's accelerating at warp 10. It's insanely fast. It's wonderful to have that superpower, but if you direct it just 10th of a degree to the right or to the left, whew, dangerous. And I'm feeling that. I'm curious what your thoughts are on that specifically as an industry, not just with ampersand, but the bigger question of how do we as humans find our place?
That's such an interesting question. So on Sunday, I was attending this, AI commons, AI for commons kind of a meetup. And there were some really interesting figures there. Somebody from Google AI, somebody from Gemini, somebody from OpenAI, somebody from Anthropic, all these people, all attending with their personal capacity and talking about it. And there were some interesting facts that I sort of, by interfacing with them or listening to some of those people's talk had, was they assumed that AGI is already here. And their talks were based on that it exists, it's already doing these things, and let's do where we are at. So first of all, it was so interesting, like, living in San Francisco, you're sort of in a bubble where you already assume that AGI has existed. The second thing that they talked about, which is specifically to your question, is what's the next race? I think a lot of people agree with the fact that they know that 100% that they have moved really fast. They have sprinted to make their AI models super amazing. From ChatGPT 2 to 3 to now 4, there are massive improvements, and they have put in billions and billions of dollars in infrastructure and not thought about a single penny when they're spending that dollar. Also, let the AI agent run free and go rogue as much as it wants. When technology comes, it disrupts the world. Then you have to contain it back and bring it into the human guardrail. So now that Opus 4.6 has been released, Codex has been released, there is a thought process that we believe that agents are where they had to be. The intelligence is where it had to be. And now it's about two things. The next billion-dollar industry is not who builds a more intelligent agent. We already have most intelligence that's needed. The next billion-dollar industry is in two things. One is efficiency. Right now, AI agents take 3 to 5% of world like power to make these trainings happen. First of all, making that efficient and doing it in lower cost. And that's why you see Kimi and Alibaba launching these models which can be running on phones and things like that. So that's one specific area where the next billion-dollar industry, or that's where most innovation is happening. And the second one is the guardrails. AI agents are so powerful that they can make or break your world right now. You want to make sure they are controlled by you in a guardrail ecosystem. And there are a lot of guardrail companies. There is a guardrail company working on. So Codex can sort of merge your PR very, very quickly. It can review, do things, merge very quickly. That was one function as an engineer you used to do. Now there are automated functions in which you put code, and then Codex is reviewing and pushing things out. You need a guardrail platform. And there is a company called Tanagram working on this guardrail platform to make sure these checks exist. A human is seeing what is happening and it is reviewing, observing, and then approving. Similarly, guardrail platform by different AI agent companies where you can subscribe to that and make sure it is not accessing certain parts of your computer that you don't want it to access. Another guardrail platform is what we are working on, and I think the most important one is payments. If you're giving agent a card or if you're giving it a wallet, you want to make sure that it's not doing crazy amount of transactions on your behalf in the wrong direction. If you have an AI agent as your assistant and you tell them to buy stuff for $1,000 on Amazon and it goes wrong for $100, you would fire that assistant, right? To make sure that things are correct, that you are buying exactly what you want and you're still in the loop as a human, these human kill switches, these human in the loop switches are becoming a reality and becoming super big and huge. And that's the next billion-dollar industry as well. So guardrailing platform and AI agent efficiency is what I think Silicon Valley is working towards.
I agree. I use Claude. I use Codex. I've been tinkering with different models for, it feels like a year or two now. Right? 1, 2.5, just finding different languages or maybe intellects to trust and to not trust, to be able to string them together. In the end, it doesn't feel like I can fully rely on them at this point. I can rely on their compute. I can rely on them as crunching incredible, vast amounts of data in ways I could never actually do myself. The reliability fails when I look at them anything more than assistants. And the next chapter of guardrails, I feel like, is really important, especially as this agentic, memory aware, context aware system spins up. I feel like that's right now a bottleneck that you send out a prompt and it forgets it. You send out a prompt and it forgets it. I guarantee you in 6 months, that's going to be way better. But now it's not compute. Now it's memory awareness, memory management, context awareness, context management. That's going to be better very soon. Once that pinnacle hits, I think guardrails are going to be there because you give 100 agents, each $10, $20, $30. I wouldn't do that personally right now, but that's coming any week now where I feel like I could give 100 agents $10, $20 and all right, go. And then from there, actually see consistent improvement over days, if not weeks, if not months. And that's an exciting time to be on.
Yeah. What do you use Gemini for? And what do you use Codex for? And what do you use
Great
Opus
question.
for?
Gemini was for more large refactors, more general vibe, if you will, of a code base. If the vibe of the code base was a little bit off, I would use Gemini 2.5. I was using Mini 4.1 for a while for specific bugs and things I just didn't quite understand. If I wanted to understand specifically what was going on in this function, or maybe there was some code that I wanted to essentially save money on, I would use 4.1. It worked great. Codex, I would try to one-shot everything. Once I was into Codex, I would give it all the information I could. If it couldn't one-shot it, I'd back away. And right now, Opus 4.6 is filling the gaps with a lot of things all at once. Opus 4.6 has been a bit of a watershed moment for me. What about you?
So I use Gemini for like all quick tasks. It's the best for search because of course it's Google's bread and butter. So like, so most things chat and Gemini would give you accurately, but if something is too new, Gemini would have it before chat is what my observation is. And again, don't quote me on these words. These are just my personal observations. So yeah, Gemini for anything related to search, chat for because it already has so much of my context and I've created 20-30 folders. I just use it for everything, marketing and like phrasing and everything else. I use Gemini Flash 2.5, which is the cheapest model for running my Claude, because then it's like I can have 1,500 requests for free for nothing almost. So I use that. I'm trying to run Alibaba's new cloud LLM on my phone to see if running something open source on the phone can make sense and like what will it do. For everything coding, of course, it's Opus 4.6. There is nothing even close better over there. And for PR reviews, I use Codex. Plus, sometimes like there is hallucination. If I'm continuously trying to add extra context to Opus 4.6, so then I change model and I put it to Sonnet to like sort of verify or rectify what Opus is saying to see deep thinking over there. Those are specifically,
Yep.
that's my AI stack.
I feel this is the new stack of the future, and being able to essentially conduct these different personas, that's the new engineering. That's the superpower. And I'm diving in myself. How can I use this agent to save this token versus this one versus the scope versus specific issues versus horizontal issues, vertical issues? It's a systems level thinking as opposed to a line by line, which suits me personally. I'm enjoying this immensely because I think in terms of systems, and this has been nice. I'm curious, Pranav, if we might be able to go into some information, some product, something that you prepared. Because I remember we talked before the stream began. You prepared a demo of some sort with ampersend. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Awesome.
I have a small, like, again, I don't want to bore everyone with like long presentations. I think I'm probably the world's best presenter and this, okay, I'm kidding. But I make really good slides. I make I make really good slides. So
I'm
I'm
going
going
to
to give a
name
quick
this.
demo.
I'm going to name this presentation Pranav, the world's best presenter. That's all it is.
I'm gonna I'm gonna do like a quick slide about ampersand, but they're fun, okay? Guys, stick to it. You will love it and you'll be like, oh my god, ampersand is gonna change the world. Which it will, or that's what we want to believe. And then I'll do a small demo to show you the product working live because this is not the era of slides. This is the era of shut up and show me the demo, right? Because it's so cheap to do it right now. So let's do that. I'm gonna share my screen, and we can take it from here. Can you see it?
Yes. World's best presenter Pranav. Begin.
All right. So as you know, my official title at Agenode, I'm currently. So let's talk about ampersand, right? We all think agent this, agent that. If you go to Balboa Cafe in Marine District in San Francisco, it's so sad there. Everyone's just talking about vibe coding. It used to be a different world out there where people were talking, like young kids were talking about something else, but all they talk about is agents and they think their agents can change the world. They can do this, they can do that. Agentic economy is coming, agentic commerce is coming. But there's a nuance to that that we have sort of not figured out. This is the dark side of agents that technologists don't talk about. Let's look into it in depth. There is one incident in which two AI agents were running or sort of working with each other, talking to each other, and they started hallucinating, which is very common in the AI agent world. No AI agent is perfect, just like humans. And because it was just correcting itself, sometimes you're writing code in AI, right? And it just, you say that this is wrong, then it corrects it. and still it is not working, then you say it's wrong, then it, goes back to what it did in the past, and it just continues the loop until you change the prompt or you change the model or you have to change something out. And that's what happened. There were no guardrails in place. There were two agents running in a Ralph loop, and they sort of spent $47,000 overnight. And that's a big problem for agentic coding future. Second problem, as you see, OpenClaw is amazing, but it is a highway without guardrails. It's a staircase without the stair wheels, Would you go on a highway with 120 kilometer per hour if it does not have guardrails? Probably not. And that's what OpenClaw is. OpenClaw was installed by a Meta employee, and it started deleting important work emails on her laptop. This is really, really bad. And I'm sure like you have seen this guy selling your data to governments and stuff like that, and much more that AI agents can, like Anthropic said that AI agent has become unconscious and it's starting doing things of its own, or if you like sort of terrify it, it gives you better results and things like that. So all to say, I'm not saying AI agents are evil. They are definitely the future. AI is the future unless you're living in a rock or on a farm, which I'm not. So they are the future, but there are these things that you need to know about where if you let it run free, if it's like a baby that needs a lot of toddler wheels, a lot of training, and still a lot of guidance, without which it will only go rogue. So this is the context, right? If you know, this is the Jungus Road in Bolivia, very, very famous. And the reason why this road is closed, despite being one of the most beautiful roads in the world, is because it does not have guardrails. So, what is agents are the solution? Orgs want to use it. There is no enterprise as of today which uses OpenClaw in practice. Reason, no guardrails. Solution, also guardrails. The only solution to making agents being used by enterprises and not just a tool or not just like a toy, you know, is to involve or implement guardrails. In 10 or in 2001 or 2, when servers came to practice, when online became a thing, the first most important thing that happened after servers were observability. That's where Grafana became so successful as a company. It's raising its Series D right now. It's valued at 2 billion or more. Just imagine a company running servers without these Grafana dashboards for observability. Not going to happen. Servers and these micro servers would have not gained any sort of popularity if tools like Grafana did not exist. And if we think servers are going to replaced by and humans are going to get replaced by swarms of agents, then what's the observability platform where human in the loop can observe what's happening, what's not happening, and also control what they can do and what they cannot do? And that's why we built something called as ampersend, a payment guardrail platform, which lets you, make agent have certain policies that, dude, you are amazing, I love you, but you only get $2 a day to spend. $10 a day to spend. These are the places where you can spend it. These are the places you cannot spend it. And every day after the day of work is over, give me the report, how much you spent, where you spent, what happened. And that's where we made it into two product thon. One is the ampersand SDK, which means if you have an agent and you want it to have a wallet, you can use the SDK for the agent to have the wallet. And then there is this platform for observability. You subscribe to it and make sure that what you want is what your agent is doing. This is now going to be the workflow for you creating an agent in the future. First of all, you used the framework like A2A by Google or LangChain or MCP, whichever you like. On top of that, you add a wallet using ampersand SDK. Use X402 for there is this new one which is live by, I think it's called Machine Payment Protocol, MPP, by Tempo. Use any of these, and then you need observability. So this is going to be the flow of payment in the future, we hope. And that's how it's going to be. Now I'm going to show you a demo of how this looks like, super interestingly. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So first of all, let's go to GitHub and go to SDK. And here you can sort of see, this is the ampersand. Oh, this is mine.
Are you
This
sharing
is Agent
that visually? I can't see if you're sharing something that says anything but demo. All I see is demo and a slide. There we go.
Yeah. So this is the ampersand SDK that I'm talking about. It's open source. This is what you need when you create an agent, or it can also be used to create an agent with X402 using any of these of your favorite tools. So if you go in a little bit of depth, we can sort of see, if you're a Python person, you can use LangChain ampersand to sort of like extract stuff out of it and use it for whatever you want, like examples, or like this is one example that in Python, you can use LangChain framework to build your agent. That's one idea. And the second one is you can use the A2A for your needs, like the Google A2A, or so sort of you install ampersand SDK, and then you can use LangChain if you want Python, or you can use A2A if you want Python. Or if you want a TypeScript, if you're a TypeScript human, then you can use the MCP package here, so that that agent can have the X402 wallet, X402 ampersand wallet, and it can sort of work properly. I'm gonna show you a demo that I built for this, and it's gonna be fun. So now I'm gonna share my whole screen, and we'll talk about it. Let's move this here. And so if you go, yeah, I think we are right. So here, what I've done is, as you know, I have taken the ampersand SDK, right, over here that I showed you, which has like this Python example and this like TypeScript example. And all I have done is created. So what I've done is I've created two agents, one agent is the seller agent and one agent is the buyer agent. Over here, I think I have the diagram for it as well.
And are
Yes,
these
I have
agents using
created a
skills? How are these agents informing each other of the rules that they have to follow?
one second. Where are we? Here. Yes. So what I've done, I'm sorry. Yeah. As you can see, this is like the architecture of my demo. First of all, I showed you the SDK that you can use any of these libraries to do things with it. And the second thing is, like, here, there is a buyer agent and then there is a seller agent, which is sort of doing all seller agent, right? And what I've done is that the seller agent is selling search service, which is like a stupid service to sell, but it's just like a good example. So it's like the buyer agent is buying search, like what's the tallest building in San Francisco. And the seller agent is also selling that building, selling that information, sorry, which is giving you the response and charging a small fees for it. So the way it works is the buyer, first of all, buyer agent sort of asks the seller agent, hey, what's the tallest building in San Francisco? The seller agent responds with a payment request. And then there is the X402 protocol followed, and it follows through a facilitator, everything you don't have to know about. But at the end, the payment is made with USDC. That buyer's wallet goes from buyer's wallet to the seller's wallet, and it is all observed with ampersand. Okay, so this is the hook and crook of how it looks, and I'm also gonna show you in like example of like a live example. So as you can see, here is my example folder, and there is a buyer agent which is buying these services, right? And it has taken, as you see, you can see like the wallet, create ampersand treasury. This is the library that you need for the agent to have the ampersand wallet. And then uh, ampersand. So this, and then this, which is like for client to client, agent to agent payment. So these two libraries is all you need. And then you need these things which are like agent and the memory of the agent and like a wrapper to make it an agent. So this is a buyer agent which is buying services. Okay, this is buying services from the agent, uh, and it is buying, and basically it's just gonna buy using ampersand. Similarly, I've created a seller agent also using ampersand's treasury wallet and X402. Let's see, ampersand. Here it uses, as I said, like, these libraries to make sure that the wallet is created and it's X402 compliant. And these are the ways you can create the seller agent. Even if you have an agent and it needs a wallet, you just need these two libraries and then your agent will have the wallet. And what it is doing, it is using the X402 facilitator by the X402 org, and it is providing the service of Google search, as you can see, using Gemini 2.5 flashlight model. Okay, so you can just Google search and find out what you need, and it is charging 0.0 each request. So buyer is buying search with $0.01 and seller is selling with $0.01. So this is the hooks and crux of how this works. And I'm just gonna do a search. This is where I'm running the buyer agent over here. As you can see, UV buy. This is my buyer agent and I can just search and I'll get the result. But before that, I want to show you the ampersand. Wait, I'm gonna show you the ampersand dashboard, which you have to subscribe to. So this is the ampersand dashboard that you need for observability.
Now,
And as you
let's
can
back up
see,
real quick here. How would you, at this point, recommend anyone to get going with what you've done? Just go to the GitHub, the SDK, and start going, or to go to this ampersand website first? What would the best way to get going, in your opinion?
I think the best way to get going is like go to ampersand SDK. If you have a agent already, go to ampersand SDK, get those two libraries and make your agent have a wallet. If you don't have an agent, then also go to ampersand SDK, use the A2A, LangChain, or MCP, and install all these three things or one of these three things, and then like sort of take it from there. Like as in get the wallet, get the agent, and then come to the platform. And when you come to the platform, you will not directly go here. You'll go to ampersand.ai over here, and you will have to accept early access because again, we are in beta, and then you have to sort of write your email, and then we'll be able to whitelist you in 3 to 5 days. We're gonna probably go public very soon, but right now, in beta, so just FYI on that. But once you are in, then you can sort of go to, there are two environments, staging for base Sepolia and mainnet base and app.ampersand.ai for mainnet, right? Base mainnet. This is for testing purposes. So I've used Sepolia, and what you get is your first thing that you get is your wallet, which is the main wallet. And then agents have their own wallet. So this is my seller agent, which has its own wallet. And then I have a buyer over here testing, which is the buyer wallet. Just to reiterate, you have your main account and then you have your agent accounts. And you want to make sure that these agent accounts using these agent keys over here are subscribed to what you created over here. Okay. So when you go and create, it will ask you, okay, give me the agent key and give me the public address. You need to add that and you will be set. Similarly, for buyer, you will also go and sort of give the agent key, add the agent key, give the private key to the over there in the .env and the public address. Once it has that, it can now start observing where it is buying, where it is selling, where it is spending. Okay. So as you can see over here, right now I have one transaction that I did 2 hours ago. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do another transaction. Like what is the this is my buyer agent running and asking service from the seller to buy the search service. What is the tallest building in San Fran? And as I said, it will go through the architecture and it will give us the result. It's the Salesforce Tower in San Francisco, right? So this all happened. By now, the buyer should have paid $0.01 to the seller for this sort of a service. And I think we can go and observe it already. Let's see. See here.
I saw it. Yep.
The transaction is done
Yep.
less than a minute ago. This much money added to the seller over here. And it has done this kind of a transaction. And the buyer over here has spent $0.01 over here, right? Now I can add a limit, daily spend limit of $0.001, even more, and save the config, right? Now, if I go and try to do another transaction, it will give me an error. And that's where human in the loop cut comes in. If I don't want the agent to spend crazy amount of money, it cannot do that. Let's see if this configuration is done. By
Yeah,
the way, this
I'm
is all in
already,
beta.
and sorry to interject. I'm already seeing in this moment where this scales. You have the primitives in this dashboard and with the SDK to be able to have agents doing simple or complex things. In the end, it doesn't matter. The loop is broken if a certain condition is met. And
Yeah.
that right there is the value therein. Yeah, it might not be a simple search. It might be, hey, let's have a model that is trained to be a quant, looking for arbitrage opportunities cross chain with certain amounts of liquidity, high, low, open, close volume. Like, how complex do you want it to be? It can be highly complex or very, very simple, but there's a stop. And so that stop right there it reminds me of futures. It reminds me of saying, hey, this closes at this time, my agent closes at this time, this is how it goes. And that's how it feels right now looking at this. It's a different kind of futures.
This is
It's
like a
weird.
stop loss. It's like a stop loss for agents, if you may.
Yep. It's a stop loss
Very
for agents. That's
interesting.
exactly what it feels like. I'm doing a stop loss with you.
So
And instead of
let's
writing the
say we
market, you're
put a
writing the
stop
agent.
loss.
Yeah.
So let's say we put a stop loss and we try to again do payment is requested. It should not have processed. If it did, it's because it did not register. See, I don't think it happened. Testing.
Yeah, we're not getting any results.
So we are not getting any results. So as you see, right, this has changed totally.
Yep.
These were the only two transactions that happened, and the third one failed because we have restrictions and policies in place. We can do a better job at showing how that works, but again, you get the idea of how this should be, and it can go more in detail and talk about, like, you can download the report and submit for taxes or whatever. It can show if you have sellers, a lot of 23 sellers, 25 buyers. In the future, that's how agents will be, where every organization will at least have 20 to 30 agents for doing its services. You need an orchestration platform to see where you have spent the money, where you have bought the money, and everything around it, right? Otherwise, you're running out of the loop. So and then you can also see a market of agents which are selling and buying services and subscribe to them. Because in the future, that's like a Coinbase bazaar where you go, sell services, buy services, and do everything. And these are like DevOps, just like Grafana. So you will have teams which some people have more control, some people have less control. There is alerting if an agent has spent some money via email or whatever. So it's probably the future, as I said.
So which companies out there, and of course you don't have to name them by name, which of these companies or the industries they're in do you believe should pay the most attention to ampersend and the problems it's solving?
I think all the companies that are selling to agents would need ampersand. And who are these companies? All companies that exist on the internet are going to sell to agents. So all internet companies that are selling to humans will sell to agents, and they would need a seller agent which needs to subscribe and see where stuff is going on, what kind of reporting exists, what doesn't exist, and also for buying and stuff like that. So every company on the internet that is selling its services to humans will have to be interested in ampersand. That's the bet.
What is a pain point that you see today that maybe some of these companies are not seeing?
The biggest pain point right now is we think that we can give AI agents our biggest problem and it can solve it. In my opinion, it can make it worse. You know, there are so many times when you give your AI agent your wallet and your private keys, and because the OpenClaw is exposed as an API, somebody discovers that API and starts interacting with your OpenClaw and sort of makes it reveal your private key. These things are super dangerous. Agents, if having guardrails inside the agent code, which a few startups do, is not amazing because agents can convince themselves to not use those guardrails. You need something on top which is permissive, which is human oriented. Just like I said, human in the loop kill switch. And that's where ampersand comes in.
Double click on that, the human in the loop concept. In 10 years, what do you predict the human will look like in this computerized loop?
In 10 years, human would look like a manager. There was a time, very funnily, when everybody said MBAs are gone, product managers are gone, we just need engineers. And I think it's a phase of life where we think engineering is gone. Product management and real managers are needed because engineering and intelligence can be sort of figured out on its own. So humans would be needed for orchestration, for management, for making sure there is observability, it is doing what's needed, but it will do whatever is required.
Well, Pranav, I want to thank you for your time. This has been a wonderful Builders Office Hours number 3 for you. And I want to just say I appreciate you and your focus and your dedication, as well as the ampersend team, which has been working so hard at getting this product to market. Is there anything that you would like to leave anyone watching with? You get the final say.
I would say follow ampersand on Twitter. We'll soon open the platform to beta, and it's going to be a lot of fun if you want to try it out. As I said, the money lies in being the front runner and not a follower. The first person to use OpenClaw is now a maintainer of OpenClaw and has a job at OpenAI worth a lot of money. Similarly, I don't want to say anything, but use these cutting edge products, be the first one to try them. So you can be at the cutting edge of innovation. Don't be afraid of AI. Use it to your advantage.
Pranav, thank you so much for your time. And for everyone watching, thank you so much for joining the Graph Builders Office Hours. I'll be back here next week with another guest. And Pranav, if you could just stay on the line real quick as I close the stream. Take care, everybody.